Hello World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair, and I'd like to take a moment to do a sort of follow-up video and talk a little more about the idea of creator rights. Now you can refer to my video Creator Rights replying to What the Hell YouTube for the sort of introduction as to exactly why this has been brought up and the entire thing I have going with my perspective of creator rights would be a nice idea. Now, I got a good amount of feedback from that, some supportive, some kind of feverish, and some very much dismissive, and a lot of things. You know, it's very good to have a lot of feedback from a lot of different areas, and extremely good to have criticisms of the idea to work from and try and, focus and figure out how to go about something, or even if something is a smart idea in the first place. But there are quite a few things that I've been thinking of on it, and I personally still think that going for creator rights as a thing would be a very big step to actually putting an end to this wild west of, internet service and, streaming service just having this kind of just, the Mad Max style, whatever the hell goes at whatever whim, and what have you with that. And yeah, I think some of the things that I should talk about first was one of the big ideas people had, not of those saying that it was, what Google was doing is perfectly fine, what YouTube and all that stuff was just, perfectly excusable. Saying, that is bullshit, but the idea, there seems to be this idea that a way to solve it would be for all of the big creators to pack their bags and go off to Dailymotion, or go off to Vimeo, or go off to some other service. Which, if you don't have the basic creator rights in place, when they become the powerful new, the best case scenario, the audience moves with them, and then Dailymotion becomes the name of, online streaming, and then suddenly you still don't have the rights in place, and it all just repeats. The same situation will happen, it's just you'll have a different name attached to it. You'll have a different company you're pissed off at, but it's going to be the same shit. So I think that still it's important to hammer home creator rights and deal with the DMCA, and those are two pretty, they're related, but they are separate issues, and I will explain that a little bit more in a tad. But also about the idea of just all the big creators taking this stuff and going, that really will, overall, the effect would be, I think I should preface this by explaining that there are two ways that YouTube makes money, pretty much. Well, it's like there's two consumers of YouTube, pretty well. The two users. There is the content creator, and then there is the consumer. Now, the content creators, like me, Doug, Red Letter Media, all the guys, I Hate Everything, Bob Show, all of us, create stuff, put it up, yay, we get paid if we do well, and YouTube gets a cut of our pay. Because it's their hosting and it's their stuff, and without them we wouldn't have been able to reach this audience, it's their, and all that. But there's also the consumer, the people who just watch. Now, if they just go on YouTube and they watch a bunch of shows, and one of their shows disappears, and they have that time they want to watch something else on YouTube, they're more likely to just continue watching something else on YouTube and just not follow that creator to wherever they move to. Which means that creator loses quite a bit by taking their stuff off YouTube, and the consumer just watches other stuff still on YouTube more likely than not, meaning that the overall effect of having a lot of big names leave YouTube will be that those big names will suffer greatly in terms of their audience, their monetization, everything. They'll be making a lot less money, they'll be known by less people overnight, and YouTube will take a much smaller hit. And that is sort of the problem with that, is like, is it a way to hit YouTube in the pocketbook? Kind of, but it hits yourself in the pocketbook a hell of a lot harder, and that's really not a good strategy in my opinion. So it puts you in an interesting spot trying to figure out what the hell could be done. Now, I think, personally, in terms of creator rights, there are the things to focus on. What are the problems that content creators on YouTube are facing? There's, you lose your channel, and have no idea why, and it's just gone one day. And this is, you can do YouTube for a living, and it's great fun if you can do it right. If you can, it's enjoyable. It's one of the greatest jobs that I've ever had, even though I'm still not really pulling in the money that I should. But in order to be able to say that I am actually surviving off of this. But despite that, there's always that looming sword of Damocles over your head. I mean, everyone talking about all the reviewers, all of the film guys, all of that got struck recently. There was also someone else struck very recently who had a hell of a lot more subscribers than most of us. Hickok45, he's a gun reviewer on YouTube, and he does a bunch of completely unedited, just him at his range, which is in his, backyard or front yard. I don't know. He's got a lot of yard. But he's got a gun. He shoots it. He talks about it. And he's got nearly 2 million subscribers as of the time I'm saying this. He might have actually hit 2 million by the time I was getting that sentence out. But yeah, he actually ended up losing his channel in January as well. It was just gone one day. And he did get an answer as to why, and he did get it reinstated and everything. But the thing was, for that, it was that his stuff, after being integrated with Google+, and he's been around since 2007, since before Google+ existed. After YouTube integrated with Google+, it was auto-posting all his stuff to Google+, and Google+ has a different set of terms than YouTube, where gun stuff is not allowed. It's a big no-no. So he lost his Google Plus account, which is attached to his YouTube account, so he lost his YouTube account that way. It's this weird, it was like a fuck you loophole. It's like, instead of you can achieve something you wouldn't otherwise be able to do by going around these weird rules that got layered on top of each other over the years, it was by going through these weird rules that got layered over on top of each other over the years, something that you were perfectly allowed to do, you no longer are. And he got his channel suspended over that, and he had to go through the channels to get it reinstated, and he was like, well, fuck, just take everything off Google+. I never used that anyway. I didn't even know it was there. So, yeah, he had that happen to him as well. There's a lot of shit going on fucking everywhere. So, the things to focus on creator rights, there's sudden loss of channel, suspension, just instant loss of everything with very little warning, if any at all, very little explanation, if any at all, and that just constant sort of Damocles, that has to be, so we got to figure out some way to put something in place to prevent or subdue that. Just mitigate it a little. Second thing, big thing in my opinion, monetization. The creator rights of monetization, pretty important, and the current state, the way things are, a disputed claim means you're not making anything on it. And that has been easily and clearly and obviously abused by people who have been making claims and just sitting on it for months and months and months. Just sit on it, waiting for it to, like, the 29th day, and then they're like, instead of under review, it goes to rejected, and then you gotta go to the next stage, and then they sit on that for 29 of the 30 maximum days. The 30th, of course, it's like, well, they didn't respond, so you get your stuff back, but no, on the 29th day, oh, rejected again! And it just keep doing that. And also, major fucking problem, double jeopardy. It's a thing that's like, oh, if someone is accused of a crime and they are not found guilty of that crime, and you already did the trial, not necessarily found innocent, just not found guilty, because presumption of innocence, one of those things. Not found guilty of the crime, you're not supposed to be allowed to go back and charge them again for the same shit. That's not how it works. But on YouTube, with the content claims, that's a constant thing. Even after going through the months and months and months, dispute, reject, dispute. Okay, we're not taking you to court over this. By the way, the claim's back on it, so what are you going to do now? Dispute? Oh, we're going to wait 29 more days, and it just keeps going. And all that time, you're not allowed to monetize your content. And those are both very big fucking problems. The double jeopardy, double, triple, fucking quadruple, quintuple, depends on how fucking stuck up their own ass the claimants are in this situation. and just not being allowed to monetize your work during that time. And it's just, it is obvious, it is being abused. There has to be something done about that. And so, yeah, there's all this stuff that can really go forth and trying to figure out how to word what the creator rights will be. These are things that we should be protecting, like your right to monetization, your right to know what if you're going to wake up tomorrow and have a channel. And if it's like if you're going and you're just uploading full movies, of course things should be done to stop that, but there's going to be plenty of evidence that you're uploading full movies, because there's going to be a full fucking movie right there. It's not going to be hard to prove. So, the whole thing about treating everyone like the worst criminal ever, and a lot of them aren't even doing anything, let alone I slipped and I didn't realize that there wasn't a crosswalk and I accidentally jaywalked. I didn't know I was being watched. I didn't realize it was actually a crime because no one ever gets fucking anything done about it. You know, not that, just people actually not even doing anything wrong that are just being treated to the worst fucking shit you can think of, and that's a major problem. So creator rights, I think that's still something to push forward, to push towards, just get to that, but I can't really say how to word it. I think one of the things that you'd need is a good team of lawyers to try and figure out all the wording and everything. Now, to focus the rest of this video, I wanted to preface it with explaining the difference between Google/YouTube's policies and the DMCA, and how they relate to each other. Of course, DMCA claims affect us creators, but it's not really YouTube's fault, as it were. That's a federal law. And the thing with the DMCA is, the way it's written, Google could say, no, you're not taking this content down. I don't care what you wrote, that we're not going to fuck over our users in that way. And the claimants would be like, okay then, that is your right. Now we get to sue you. And that would be Google's position. They're pretty much stuck between a rock and a hard place in that. If they actually want to fight the DMCA themselves, they open themselves up to lawsuits. And trying to fight the DMCA, pretty important. But if we get creator rights and well-written creator rights, that will subdue a lot of the problems, because a lot of the issues we're having are just with YouTube's user agreements and the community guidelines, and how it can be twisted and bent, and how just at any time for any reason just nuke your channel. None of that has to do with the DMCA. That's just Google. So get the creator rights in to protect us from that. I can deal with a DMCA claim or two, but if I've got some rights to back me up for the rest of it, I can handle the DMCA. It's fucked, it's unconstitutional, but I can handle that if we get some rights for ourselves. And that's the other thing, going against Google versus going up to Congress about the idea of creator rights. Now, getting Google to agree and put it down would be a good idea. It would help, but Google is a company, and they can just change it. And they don't have anything to really worry too much about if there's nothing in the basic law about it. So it would be harder, but it would be better in the long run to go to Congress about the idea of getting a Creator's Bill of Rights or the like written up. And it's a big task, but I personally do think that it is possible. And I was thinking, if I can remember what all the prongs are, I just remember the 3-prong, and I'm trying to remember what those prongs were. Now, step 1. Creators for this have to be unified. I don't mean unionize. I don't mean let's get us a thing and just, let's all pay the dockets and get our, top guys to maybe help us out with that. I just mean that creators in general need to come together. And I mean that in terms of whatever the hell tastes you have in reviewer or non-reviewer or whatever, just it's not about petty squabbles and this, that, or the other. I mean, I saw some people saying on the last video that oh, well, Channel Awesome isn't funny anymore, so I'm glad this happened to him and fuck him. And I'm in the position here, talking about creator rights, saying that it doesn't matter if they're funny or not. They have rights. They should have rights. None of us have rights right now. That's the problem I'm having. But whether you're funny or not, you should have rights. It doesn't matter which side you go on in any other thing. The basic rights are for everyone. That's the point. And so Unify, but at the same time, you have to be careful. You're going to have to be careful. Because there are times when you're in a position where you're trying to unify everyone and you build a strong community out of it, there are people out there who like to co-opt shit. They like to hijack shit, and they like to try and some of them, I think the scariest thing is some of them really do think that they're helping something grand and big. They're trying to, do some good in the world, and they see here's this big community, maybe I can get them to do this good thing. And what they end up doing is destroying it from the inside. And I think the reason that it's so scary to me is because I don't think that they're actually trying to sabotage it. It's so amazingly effective that someone could be like, hey, your creator rights are great and all, and I agree with you completely that creators should have rights. But there's female genital mutilation in Yemen, and we really should talk about that too. And there's a lot of big, old straight white men in your movement, and they shouldn't speak because we got marginalized voices that really need to speak first. Because after all, when we devolve your conversation to nothing but arguing over everyone's skin color and genitals, that'll be progressive. Yeah, I'm not interested in ending this that way. I want to see this move forward, and that would be a very quick way for it to all go in the shitter. But also, I don't care if it gets reported on. If it gets big and gets reported on, that's great. And I don't care if it's a left-leaning news source or a right-leaning news source reporting on it. But I will not accept either of them saying that it's a left issue or a right issue. It's just human rights, just creator rights, everyone. Everyone. That's what I mean by I don't care what your opinions are on this, I don't care what your opinions on that. I don't care if you're funny, I don't care if you're not, I don't care if I think that you are just... Yeah, I don't care if you made Sonichu. You have creator rights, okay? That's kind of the point I'm getting at here. So, unify, but don't try and push in a bunch of other issues that have nothing to do with what we're trying to do here, because that will just prevent it from ever going anywhere. Create just a whole bunch of crap and just... Now, the second thing to really push it home, like how to get creator rights to work. So you unify. Second thing, lawyer up. After we get everyone together and try and get the things going, there's going to have to be a Creator's Bill of Rights written, and I'm not the one to write it. I don't know the ins and outs of the law too well. I mean, you learn quite a bit about copyright law as soon as you start making videos on YouTube, because you're going to be accused of copyright infringement. No matter what. You will. That's how it works. So, yeah, I mean, as much as I've ended up digging into all sorts of stuff with this, you still have to be very careful on how a creative bill of rights would be written up. So I think the best way to do that would be, big team of lawyers, and that would also be handy for taking to Congress, big team of lawyers. And when it came to SOPA, I saw Channel Awesome and a lot of the people, a lot of the personalities there, they suited up and went to Congress, and they spoke, and I'm sure that felt great, but I really don't think that that was effective as much as a big scary team of lawyers would be. So you have people unified to increase the strength of the voice speaking, because just me on my own, I can say this all day. No one there's gonna give a fuck. 500 creators together could say it together. That's great. They'll give slightly more of a fuck. 500 creators together with 2 lawyers? They're gonna give a fucking a damn. But we're also talking about the idea of taking it to Congress And that requires one last thing to really push forth, where I think is the key to getting it to really strike home, succeed. Going to need the backing of the public in general. Now, you can just walk up to someone on the street, it's like, hey, do you think that artists need rights? And they'll be like, yeah. But you need a good PR campaign to get the word out that there is a campaign for a Creators' Bill of Rights. You need that to get the majority of the people on your back. With your back. Backing you up. Not on you. On your back is bad, backing you up is good. I'm getting this. But, yeah, that's another reason why I shouldn't be writing a Creators' Bill of Rights. But the point is, if you have the majority of the public on your side, and you take your 500 creators and your 2 strong-ass lawyers to Congress, it's going to be a hell of a lot more meaningful than just the 500 creators and 2 lawyers on their own. The public perception will be important, and that's another reason why, if this gains any traction, of course there will be plenty of smear campaigns. Plenty of people saying that it's actually just something horrible, which is why I think a focused idea like just straight up calling it creator rights instead of trying to come up with some snarky, cool sounding little, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, this is the part where editing this would be a good idea. It's an inside joke kind of thing. While everyone else around you might understand, meaning it would be nebulous to the public and very easy for someone in a smear campaign to say, oh, that's a hate group over there. And it just, nothing would get done. And it would be very, very hard to push against that kind of backlash. And there are people who are speaking for rights who are being still called a hate group over it. So you still gotta work. It's not exactly a guaranteed go-to, and I know it very well. But you still, and there's also the idea of, there was something, I saw an article-ish kind of thing going where someone was like, oh, if you don't like Google, that's fine, but don't make Doug Walker the face of your movement. And I'm like, I didn't even know there was a movement yet. I know there's a lot of animosity. I know there's a lot of just frustration that needs to be directed, and if done right, we can get something done here that I think would help everyone quite a lot. But as much as one could dislike Doug Walker for one reason or another, just flat out dismiss him, I think, is just divisive, and that's one of the things that's going to be a problem, being that, taking creators and just splitting them off into little bands like, oh, here's the Channel Awesome camp, and here's Red Letter Media camp, and whatever, and that's not going to be able to accomplish what I think, personally, is going to really help us. And I mean, this has been a big rambly video, I know. I'm talking about focus, and I'm just going on all sorts of tangents. But yeah, the need for creators to unify under the idea of pushing for creator rights. The need to not have I don't think that it's really too great of an idea to have, like, a face of it. And it's like, don't make Doug the face of it. I don't care if Doug is a face in it. And I don't think that anyone was trying to make Doug the face of it. I've seen movements go with a leader that fail miserably. I've seen movements go with no leader that have succeeded in things. And I've seen movements go with no leader and fail miserably. And there are those that plenty of gray area in between that I think works out really well, where you don't necessarily have a leader, but you have voices, big voices. None of them are the head of it, but they have a platform and they can put forth their ideas, and since they are not the leader, everyone is free to say, fuck off with that, that's a terrible idea. And that I think is absolutely just the best way to go about it for this kind of thing. I don't want anyone... I personally don't want anyone to just take up the reins and hold the flag of creator rights and say, I am creator rights. Put me in the history books, please. I want it to be everyone, because that way everyone knows whether or not you have a platform right now, just speaking on it. If you have good ideas, you could make your own platform on it and be a voice in it and just be known that way. It's just something that can happen. And you're not going... People can look up to you for that, but you're not going to be the be-all, end-all of it. No one will be the be-all, end-all of it. It will be about everyone. And I'm getting really into this, and I'm thinking back to that Bernie Thoughts Twitter page, where I'm just putting my heart into everything I say, no matter how much sense it does or does not make. So, I refuse to accept the kind of compromise that results in a pizza bagel. So yeah, I think I've already run out of ideas for this video. So, please discuss in the comments below any ideas you have for this, against it, whatever you have. Normally I don't ask for comments because it's this cheap thing that people do on YouTube because it ups the results in search engines, but I'm honestly interested, I swear. Pinky swear. So, thank you all for watching. I've been Dr. Shado. And remember, the pizza bagel!